Thank you very much for this kind introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here today with you. Let me start my talk by making a rather trivial kind of observation. So if you talk about disruptive technologies, then you have to understand that disruptive digital is basically in everything. It's not just only the IT industry. If you talk about disruptive technologies, digital is either in the essence of the disruptive technology, or disruptive technologies are using digital in order to come up with something completely new. So if you talk about disruptive technologies, you have to talk about different things. You have to talk about the physical world, you have to talk about the digital world, and you have to talk about the biological world. And you have to understand that those kind of things are interconnected very much, and that the digital is basically a horizontal between them. So let me talk about the physical world. The physical world is basically governed by Moore's law. Moore's law was invented for semiconductors, and it's broadly applicable to all kind of hardware and all kind of things that we are interconnected with in the real world, basically everything that you can touch and that you can feel. And it basically says that everything is getting smarter, everything is getting faster, everything is getting cheaper. And as everything is getting cheaper, we are introducing it to basically everyday's objects. So let me just ask and sense for the sentiment here in the room. Anyone thinks that, please raise your hand, anyone thinks that a computer in your toilet could solve any of your problems? Probably not. Yeah, one. If I told you that basically this computer in the toilet is connected to sensors, and the sensors are analyzing what you left in the toilet, and your toilet basically knows when you're getting sick or if something is not right with you. This is exactly what's happening, and this toilet will be connected to the internet, and this toilet will communicate with your doctor, and your doctor is going to tell you that something is not wrong with you, or something is wrong with you. So what we see here in the physical world are a few really disruptive technologies. I think one of the most disruptive technology is definitely machine vision. So machine vision is something where we can teach the machines now to perceive the world as we do, in a three-dimensional kind of way. So machines understand the world not just in a two-dimensional picture, but in a three-dimensional way. And this is truly disrupting the cyber and cybernetic systems in general. So the digital world, this is a very interesting one. The digital world is basically driven by a zero or almost zero marginal cost of reproduction. So once you build software, you can basically redistribute it and sell it without any additional costs. And this has some very profound implication. It basically means that this is driving towards a winner-takes-all market, and we see that in software. If you just aim to be the second best, you will be number 0, because you will not have any customers. The customers are going for the best solution, not the second best solution. And, of course, as I said before, the digitalization of just everything. So, disruptive technologies that we see in there are some of the ones that we already know, but also ones that you should be aware of, especially if you're thinking of becoming an entrepreneur. And one of them is blockchain. I'm a huge fan of blockchain. And it goes far beyond Bitcoin and what we see happening in the financial industries at the moment. So if you are interested to become an entrepreneur, please have a look at blockchain, because it's going to change the world as much as the internet did. We will have smart contracts. We will have basically organizations that can be run completely without any human interaction. Something else that is coming up, of course, is quantum computing. I think it's way closer than we think, and it's going to have huge implications of things like cybersecurity, for example. So let me jump into the biological domain. The biological domain is governed by understanding basically about two things: understanding the human genome and by understanding the human brain. The human genome is important because there are technologies out there that basically are able to delete diseases right in your body. And those kind of technologies, it's called CRISPR, that everyone should be aware of. It's going to probably happen in around 10 years, and it's going to change the life we know profoundly. The second thing is understanding the human brain, because this understanding of the human brain is feeding into artificial intelligence, and the better we can program computers, the better it helps us in other disciplines like in biology or in other things. So neurotechnologies are really, really important in order to build greater software, and this is what we're seeing happening at the moment. So if you think that this is all fluffy talk, you can have a look here. The Global Agenda Council on Software and the Society, they did a study basically on what are the tipping points and when are those technologies going to hit the market. And you can see here the result. I mean, it's always a kind of, you should be really critical about these things, because what I have learned is talking to people and talking especially to experts is that they are not, the humans in special are not very well made for making predictions for several reasons. First, because the world is uncertain, the world is volatile, the world is really chaotic and confusing and complex. And humans, normally when they project something into the future, they take what has been experienced in the past and just linearly extrapolate, which is not a very good approach. But here you can see what, and this report is available on the internet, what experts think are going to happen in the next few years. So here, a tipping point, for example, for especially 2025, we see that, for example, 91.2% of the people, of the experts, think that 10% of the people will be wearing clothes connected to the internet, and so on. So this is really happening, and it's happening fast because we never take into account that the world is non-linear. We always think that the world and the development is linear, which is not true. So let me just make a point on the implications on society. I'm totally in line with what Thomas said. I think there are a lot of problems with technology. You can talk about governance, you can talk about security, you can talk about data privacy, but I think the one real important thing and the real threat is we see that technology is driving global imbalance, and also in a country. So we see that there are people who are benefiting from it and people that are completely left behind. And I think this is the biggest threat for all of us. And I think having a big, broad middle class is something that every country should envision compared to just fostering the development of a small elite. And this is what I think really governments will be challenged with in the future. All right, so that's everything. Thank you for your attention. And if you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Thank you.